Hi folks, lesson number 10, Hebrew for all. You're going to learn how to read, write, and speak Hebrew really well together with me. My name's Shlomo Eitan, and we're going to continue where we left off in our last class. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to put up onto the screen this chart. And this time you're seeing the chart in block letters, without vowels, in block letters, as I have in the prior class, class number 9, written it down for you in my handwritten form. Here you see it in the block letters, and the chart on the right hand side, we're calling it the Ani chart, and the chart on the left hand side, we're calling it the OT chart. And did you review? Do you know the material? Because I told people that you'll be best served by going through this on your own and knowing it really well, and not being a show-off in particular, but just wanting to try and drive home the significance and importance of your doing review. I remind you, you want to be able to shoot out these charts something like this: Ani, ata, at, hu, he, anachnu, atem, aten, hem, hen. And the newer chart, the one we learned in the last class, the OT chart. אותי, אותך, אותך, אותו, אותה, אותנו, אתכם, אתכן, אותם, אותן. Now, they're significant and they're important, and one of the things that I try to point out to people to appreciate how critical these two charts are that in these particular charts you have a total of 8 words for one English word. The one English word is you. So you have a you, and you have another you, which is going to be a feminine, and you have a you and another you, which is going to be a feminine. And then in this line, which all of you already know, atem, y'all, the way I say it, to always remind us that we're talking about a plural, aten, y'all, and I call this the presidential mistake, and you can listen to the prior class if you like to, in order to refresh that memory. Etchem and etchen, y'all and y'all, and then back to the O sound, which is so classical to this very pattern, otam, otan. And now I'm going to explain why these charts have been placed in a parallel fashion, one to the next, and also why you need them and what makes them so significant. And I'll put in a little aside. I meet lots and lots of people who don't have these clear, and it's really essential to being fluent and or understanding a text effectively. So here we go. And I'm going to do it consistently with the way I always try and teach, in a non-grammatical fashion. Don't want to turn anyone off with grammar terminologies, so don't expect to hear them from me. Okay? The chart on the right-hand side, we're going to call it before the verb. That's its place. That's where it belongs. The one on the left-hand side is going to be after the verb. And therein, folks, believe it or not, we have fundamentally explained the primary difference between these two charts. What I'm going to do right now is take a, as it were, clean piece of paper, and then I'm going to show you what I meant by those concepts of before the verb. Okay, this sheet is going to be an excellent example of the necessity of being able to distinguish between which of the two charts do I want to use. Do I want to use the Ani chart or the OT chart? So I'm going to take my pen in hand, and here we go. We are closing them. Well, on a simple level, just look at the two charts that hopefully you've printed out or written down from the board that I had up a few moments ago. We, there's really only one word for we, so hence anachnu. Should be starting over here. Anachnu. Our closing. I just want to remind people along the way that's the same as close. So אנחנו, we need agreement. סוגרים. And then them. Now it's not they. In English, you couldn't pull off, we are closing them. At a tender age, you learned we are closing them, that them is a very different word from they. For our purposes, them is after the verb. The verb, sogrim, after the verb in the order of the sentence, and hence, otam. אנחנו סוגרים אותם. Okay, look at number 2. It doesn't have any of the elements of before and after. It doesn't have both of the elements in before and after. It's really on there for a couple other reasons, which aren't so important for me to mention right now, but see if you could do 2 on your own. It's the first time you're seeing it. Give it a go. See how you could do. Pause if you like. In any event, what is in the Hebrew language the word ma. Does is the same as in Hebrew is drinking. So what is he drinking? What does he drink? Would be ma. Who? Shote. Beautiful. And we use a question mark just like in English. And now, are you guarding them? This is an opportunity to share with you that there's no special way to start a question in Hebrew. Actually, there really is, but it's such a beautiful way of speaking that people in this generation are uncommon to use that I don't introduce it at this point in time. Maybe I'll come back to it sometime as a coming attraction. But so simply, how do you handle the are you, which is turning it into a question in English? You simply skip the R and write down ata. Assuming that I'm speaking to male and singular, shomer, otam, and let's do another one. Does she see us? Does. In English, it's just a question word. We're not going to have to translate it into Hebrew. So, he, that's she, ro'ah, the feminine form of seeing. Us. Now is that before the verb or after the verb? It's after the verb, hence us is otanu. He ro'ah otanu, and as you can hear, it's the intonation, the tone with which you ask this question that determines that it's a question, because you could certainly say he ro'ah otanu, statement, but this would be he ro'ah otanu, does she see us, and so forth and so on down the sheet. It would be good for you to do the rest and practice them. In number 6, I'll do one more here. I'm, where I'm dealing with feminine and singular. I'm pretending that it's a woman speaking. Ani lomedet. And this is on this practice sheet to remind people, or to bring to people's attention a concept that I'm going to say here, oto, which means him or it. And in this context, in this sentence, I'm clearly using it for meaning it. We're going to learn that there's going to be a feminine it and a masculine it. As we already see in the chart, there's oto and ota. But the assumption here is that it's a woman who's learning, but that has nothing to do with whether the it is masculine or feminine. And on these sheets of mine, this one happens to be called P 0.25. We're going to assume masculine and singular unless otherwise told. So I would suggest you folks go back, review that Ani chart and OT chart well, know them by heart, and then come forward to the next class. This is class number 10. It was a pleasure learning with you, and we'll see you in the next class. Study up in the meantime. Shalom, shalom.